Hello, and welcome to the Canadian Story, where we discuss what Canada is, what Canada could be, and what Canada should be. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Canadian Story. This is a very special episode to me personally because we have Father Thomas here, and Father Thomas is the Archpriest for the Georgian Orthodox Church in Canada. Is that correct, Father Thomas?
Yes. Hello, everyone, and God bless you. Yes, that's true. I'm Archpriest in all over Canada, and only one priest from Georgian Church in Canada.
So the only priest in Canada right now for the Georgian Church, is that correct?
That's correct. And overlooking over four locations, Toronto and Montreal, Calgary, and Vancouver. So I have to.
So he's got a very big parish. It's the size of Canada, which is kind of insane.
It is. If you see the number of the kilometers I've done in the last 10 years, you would not believe. So I fly a lot, I travel a lot, I drive a lot to Montreal, also to US, because of the US is our headquarters of our eparchy, or North American Georgian eparchy. So it's millions and millions kilometers.
So one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the Canadian Story is because you've chosen to make Canada your home, and you work very hard to integrate the Georgian faith, the Georgian community, and your Orthodox faith into their Canadian context. But for those who don't know, I have a very special love for Georgia and have really come to appreciate both the Georgian people, the Georgian land, and the Georgian culture. And one of the things that I love most about Georgia is its long history of basically standing firm in the face of persecution, of being under empire, of constantly being conquered. And yet the Georgians have never lost their language and they've never lost their faith. So maybe you could share a little bit of how that identity was built from your perspective and why it's so strong and why it's so important to you, someone who's giving so much of your free time, your resources, your efforts to keeping that alive and strong in another land.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you to giving me a chance to express all of this and delivering the information to others. Why it is important to stand for your faith, stand for your people, and for your country. And as you mentioned, David, I choose to move to Canada, and I was going to move back to Georgia, but I was ordained here as a priest. And since then, my mission has changed. And then I'm here, and I'm helping people, Georgians, and not only Georgians, Greeks, Serbians, Canadians, Russians, Ukrainians here. So what I would say about Georgia, or how come this tiny nation survived across so many centuries, and standing for their faith, standing for their culture. I would say that Georgia was founded very long time ago. There were proceedings to the science of language science, and that was published, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And then they said that 15,000 years ago, there was a language, only one language, which existed on the territory of Caucasia, and which was spoken there by the nation which is called today Georgians. And there are specific formulas where you can see how old is your language. And yes, Bible is saying different stories that number of the years, how many years we exist on this earth since Adam and Eve. But yes, it's very, very old nation, and it is located in the center of the Silk Road. What is a Silk Road? To explain, it's a center and it's a hub between India, China, and Europe. Every how to say traveler should cross, and especially before there were no airplanes, they had to cross Georgia. And whoever holds the keys to this territories, they hold the keys to the east, west, and north and south. And that's why that territory, even if you look from the space pictures, you will see that there is only one passage. There is only one way from east to west, and other way around. And then another thing, what is very important to understand, that Georgia stands in on the border between two huge religions, which is Islam and Christianity. And Georgia is a very multicultural country, but it's Christian country, Orthodox country. And because there was a fight, constant fight between those two religions or empires, I don't want to stress on the religion only, but it's empires, to hold the keys to the West and East. There was a war every 20 years, every single 20 years, maybe even less, every year. There were people who were overrunning Georgia 10, 14 hours, 14 times, 15 times in their life. And reducing the nation from 8 million people to 400,000 within 20 years. And but nation survived, because more you go against the nation, the more they stand for their life, for their faith, and for their culture and for their country. So that's what delivered us today here, that we were never able to grow to that number, 8 million or 12 million Georgians. We are today 4.5 million, and half of them are abroad. They are immigrating. But when they starting immigration, when they settle in the countries like US, Canada, Europe, they settle in the groups, and then because they help each other, and then they keep their language, they keep their faith in Jesus Christ, because the majority is Orthodox Christians in our country. And then they settle around the churches, because churches are only one place where they come, they find their job, they find help from others, they find help for their elders, for their kids. They have a school there, and then they work and they live together, and they progress together. So our law of in last 100 years, and Georgia was one of the first countries who acquired Christianity. Saint Andrew, Saint Simon, and Saint Matthias was in it. They were in Georgia and enlightened Georgia. And official Christianity was already also declared same time when Byzantium declared the Christianity in year 327. So it's one of the oldest Christian countries, one of the oldest, because St. Andrew was there, and he enlightened Georgia. And since then, we never betrayed our faith. And even if we are, we know that we need to go to the war to defend our kids, defend our country. People are happy to go to the war to defend their country, and every kid was learning from their childhood that they at some point they will become defenders of their country. defenders of their culture, of their religion, and their people, kids, elders, and women in their country. So that's in our blood. And that's what is driving us when we go to other countries, when we travel, when we settle as immigrants in other countries. We bring our faith, we bring our love of each other. And we are very social people. We are every day we meet each other somewhere in somebody's house. We meet, we discuss, we sing a lot, we pray, and we exercise. We exercise helping each other, and that's what we are bringing to other nations, and that's why our church is full of other nations also. And that's why our church is attracting so many foreigners, and it's so multicultural that sometimes I have to pray on 3-4 languages.
So would you mind sharing like one of your favorite stories of Georgia, like of the faith, and like one of the great stories from your past that people remember?
So one of the greatest story, and it's a very sad story. It's greatest story, but it's very sad story. So I will. This will emphasize how much we love our country and how much we love our Jesus Christ and then our God. There was a time when Tbilisi is our central city of Georgia, and Tbilisi was invited. And it was very, how to say, strong city, but the number of the inviters outnumbered our defenders. And when they entered into the city, they collected a lot of people, and on one of the next to one of the bridges, central bridges. And on the bridge, they brought from the churches, and this was about 800 years ago. They brought from the churches icons, and they put the icons on the bridge. They filled the bridge with the icons, and then our holy relics. And they collected kids, they collected old people, elders, and those people who were not involved into the battle, who survived that battle, right? And they collected all those people. There were about 100,000 people, a little bit more, and they asked them to cross the bridge, stepping on the icons. And those people who choose to step in and pass, they would be free. But those who choose not to pass, they would be killed with beheading. That was cruel, right? One of the cruelest times in Georgian history. And 100,000 people, kids, women, elders, choose to be killed for their faith. 100,000 for 1 week. Those people were slaughtered there, and they never step on the icons. It's not only icons; they never step on their culture. They never betrayed their country. 100,000, and we remember those people every year, and we have a huge celebration, and huge our nation is coming and gathering at that bridge, and they celebrate. Even after 800 years, they celebrate, and we call it 100,000 people who were killed for their country, for their faith, for Jesus Christ. So that's one of the most important thing. What is driving us to be Georgians, to be Christians, and to love our country, to the point that we can give our head and our life for it. So that's a very important thing.
And now, as someone who's come to Canada and sees kind of that we don't really have that kind of a understanding of who we are, right? Like, you're a Georgian, your culture 800 years ago, you have a story that you talk about every year, right? And there's probably hundreds of those stories, right? Of the people of Georgia. I mean, I'm sure you like this quote. It's one of my favorites. It's the church grows from the blood of the martyrs.
Yes.
Right? And Georgia has a lot of martyrs. There's been a lot of people who've laid down their life for their faith in Georgia. And I think part of it is that you can't destroy the Georgian culture because the Georgian people are willing to die for it. And when someone's willing to die for something, if you kill someone, they'll see that person loves that thing so much that they're willing to give up their life for it. That means it must be something, right? It must have value. But in Canada, we're a very young country, just a baby country. You know, we didn't have a national identity until about 150 years ago. How does it feel to look at Canada, to come from a country that knows who it is, that has such an established identity, and then to come to Canada and see we don't really seem to know who we are? What would your advice to a young country be, as someone who comes from an ancient, noble, martyr-soaked culture that believes?
When we arrived first time in 2006, we saw that we met a lot of people, and we saw that this country was very multicultural. And this is happening mostly in the last, I would say, 50 years, right? Because a lot of people are arriving, and now 500,000 people are arriving. Immigrants are arriving almost every year to Canada, right? And it's growing very fast, and it's very, very multicultural. What I would advise to the new country like Canada, to everyone has their traditions. If those traditions are not very long, if they are not even, how to say, coming from 1,000 years ago, I came here and I saw that there was a tradition when all people were gathering around the Thanksgiving table, right? And that was amazing because they were giving thanks not only to their family, but to their God, that God brings them together. And thank you, God, that you give us life. And then that was promoting family life, and that was promoting social life. That's very important. So that was one of the tradition, what I loved here. Another tradition was, of course, big celebrations as a Christian celebrations, as a Christmas and Easter. And we, in Orthodox tradition, we call it Nativity and then Pascha time. And that also is a time when people get together and get together as a families. What I would recommend to bring it more to the national level. Have those huge celebrations. That Thanksgiving is huge. It should be more, not only on the family level, but it should be on the bigger celebrations, big events happening, and people coming together. It should not be just for one family or two, and that unites nation. That creates a nation. Social life is creating the social vibes, and then people are not alone anymore. I see a lot of people are alone. A lot of elders are alone, and then yes, they have a help from government, but nobody cares about them. It's very sad, and that's what you need to promote. We Canadians as a nation should be together. We should not be separated. And that's what pandemic was dictating: separate, stay apart. We cannot stay apart. Even if we are in a time of pandemic, we should help each other. Thousands and thousands of years, there were hospitals in the churches. Church invented hospitals. Church and religious organizations invented hospitals and invited people to get treatment. And church invented the academies and the schools. And those societies which are faith-based, they are very strong. Those societies which are capital-based, they are separated. And faith needs to unite people, not capital unite people. I understand. Capital makes people work very hard, pay taxes, and we should do that. It's important. It's important to a country to grow. But most important in the country to stick together, because there are a lot of people who needs our help. We cannot say, okay, you are old, you cannot work, and you are not needed by our society anymore. Yes, you are needed because you worked so hard for Canada, for Canadian culture, for Canadian prosperity of this country, right? And we need to keep all those people appreciated, because we will get old also. And if we do not appreciate our elders today, our kids will not appreciate us, and nobody will want to work for the Canada as a big unity of nations. And that's most important. I want to say social life and social unity of the country and keep the traditions is very, very important for this country to be self-identified. And so you are not, okay, I'm Canadian, but I don't know which country I belong to. No, I'm Canadian. I have a strong beliefs. I have a strong culture. Even my culture is maybe 150 years old, right? So that's most important, how you identify yourself. We're a strong nation. We have multi-religion, multicultural country, and we identify ourselves with that we are social people. We are together, and we help each other. So that's most important. And traditions, keep traditions. So if Canadian goes to the war, God forbid, we have that how to say kind of history as Georgia. Everyone should be able to say, I love to go and fight for my country, fight for my Canada, and fight for my culture and for my people. That's one of the most important things.
Yeah. So you've been spending a lot of time with people who've moved from Georgia here to Canada. What are you finding? How are you finding the big differences? What are the biggest differences that you see between the two countries, and maybe what are the things that Georgia can learn from Canada, and what are the things that Canada could learn from Georgia?
Yes, that's very good question, and I'm trying to decipher this for a long time and understand how we can make both countries understand our how to say good side and bad side, black and whites. So, for example, what I would recommend to my Georgians, and when they come to Canada and when they start settling here, I tell them, first of all, you need to be very mindful to this country. This country has a history, and they have their own people, their own tradition, and you need to learn English, and that's very important thing. Very first thing you need to do. Second, you need to obey the law. That's important also, because you are in new country, and this country, yes, there is a God, and then there is a law. Nobody above the law, and nobody above the God, about our God, right? And those two things are very important. You need to find the ways how you can progress very soon, how you can find a good job, but not just any job. Learn how you can learn, where you can how to say donate more your time, or deliver much more your experience, right? Sometimes I see that professors or people with degrees, master degrees and PhDs, they're coming and they're driving Uber. That's what I don't like. And I tell them there is a ways to integrate in a proper way because you have so much experience. What I like about Canada, there are a lot of processes, and there is a stability because those defined processes do not let some people, though we had some not perfect experience, do not let anyone to dictate what they want in Canada, right? Their process, which is guardrailing whole nation, right? There are some freedoms, and there's specific laws, which is making your speech. You can speak and you can be in a democratic way, right? And those processes keep everyone in the rails, and nobody can detour country from their path. So that's what I like, and I like people. Majority are following that. What I would recommend to Georgia, because Georgia is it's a last part of the Europe, eastern part of the Europe, but it's also mix of the Asia, right? And when this mix is happening, people are very impulsive, right? They can do various things what you cannot do in this country, right? And then I would recommend Georgia also to become process-driven country. While you have your faith, you have your culture, don't abandon that, but introduce the process which can make your country to stay on their rails and on their path for a long time, right? And that's one of the important things I like about Canada. It's very stable. It's helping their its own citizens and even newcomers, permanent residents who are not citizens, right? And helping also those people who are refugees and newcomers. While in Georgia we have a lot of people, it's overpopulated. It's a tiny nation, but if we follow the same process and if we guardrail our process and our culture, that will be one of the most important for the Georgia. And that's what I would recommend to people who are coming here. Find good place where you can study, where you can increase your experience and become very experienced or professional in your field, right? Find your ways in Canada, but ask questions, ask a lot of questions, ask people. There are people who are willing to help you, and don't struggle. Just don't go to the low-paid work just to have a bread and food at your table. Think about your future. So that's what I would recommend to Georgians in this country and any country where they're immigrating. And be together, because when they're together, they learn a lot of much faster what they can do, what they cannot do. When I was here in 2006, there were only a few families, 6-7 families in Toronto, and I had to learn hard way. Today, the newcomers, they have a whole church of people and parishioners who can share their experience and tell them how to progress faster than we did it in 12 or 14 years ago.
So that's a good segue into, let's talk about your role as a priest and as someone, Leo Tolstoy said, where there is life, there is faith, right? And I'm sure as someone who is a shepherd to this flock that's scattered all across a gigantic country, you've seen the role that faith can play in people's well-being and in dealing with problems. So can you share a little bit of why your faith is so important to you, why you give so much of your time to your faith, and what it means to follow God from your perspective?
So when I was ordained here in Toronto, I was supposed to, work with a few parishes only, Montreal and Toronto. But then some more people started arriving in Calgary and then in Vancouver. And then because there was no any other priest, we could how to say have in a church. I have to acquire those places and create the parishes also there. So I had to work very hard, travel a lot. But your question, when you are asking what is driving you, Father Thomas, how can you travel so long? How can you travel to Montreal Friday morning? I'm traveling by car. My wife is driving, and for 6 hours. And at the night when we arrive, I work from car, and my wife is driving. I arrive. We have a service at night in Montreal, let's say. Then we have a service Saturday morning. And then we depart sometimes at 1 p.m. Saturday. And I come again, drive 6 hours, come to Toronto, do another 2-hour service, then hear confessions, go home, have another service Sunday morning, and have another event or some meetings with people. And then at the end of the Sunday, say, okay, I am happy that I delivered my voice. I delivered hope. What is driving me? So when you work, when you go for work, sometimes, and most of the time, why do we work? We work because we want to keep our life going. We need to bring funds and then money at home, to home, right? And food to our table, and we need to feed our kids and our families. But that's work. You work sometimes for money and sometimes for fun, and maybe fun, sometimes for being popular. There are many reasons. But faith work is different. You believe in something that it drives you. You believe that your help to people and your prayers are helping others. And we see this on a daily basis. We do a lot of prayers. My parishioners, they call, we have a huge icon from Montatos, from Greece, delivered to Toronto a few years ago. And those people are saying that this is miracles icon. Whatever they ask, they are getting. And I'm saying, yes, icon can be miracles, but it's not, it can make miracles, but it's not about the miracles. It's about what you believe and what you dictate your mind and your soul you need to achieve or you need to do. And that is heard by God, and He is helping you to get that. And I also feel that when we pray for others and when we go, and St. Paul said, what is going to survive you or take you to the heavens is two things. Those two things are, first is the belief, prayers, and then second is the deeds and what you do. So first is for your soul and for others' souls. It's on the spiritual level. And second is how you can help. You bring some food. You can bring something to people. You bring medicine to people, or just hope, right? You visit some others. So those two things is coming from our spiritual life, and both of them, one is a physical work, and other is a spiritual work. And I deeply believe that when people possess both of those, they are very successful in their life, because God helps them and they also work. So they don't have a time to relax, or everyone needs to relax at some point, but they don't have a time to relax all their life, right? If you have extra time and you don't know what to do with that, go and help others. And that's what I believe that needs to drive this country and those people in this country. And prayers, it's a virtual help. right? And then helping with some stuff like donate not only your money, but donate your time. And there was a study, and I was watching that study 10 years ago, and they said that if you work for a week, for example, and you donate all this money, what you make in a week, to the charity, or to kids, or to elders, or to sick people, right, or hospitals, it's appreciated. But what is more appreciated, if you take off from your work and go and work with those people even one day. You understand? So you are losing only one day, but you are helping somebody with your hand, with your soul, and directly you are helping them. So one day of your donation, meaning your time donation, wherever you need, like in the schools or whoever needs your help, right, is much more appreciated than you donate your time while you are working for a week at your work. And this is very important to understand. This is not. This is where one of the most important social studies that saying that donating when you are there is more important than donating your money. Money is important. Oh, let's say nothing is happening in this country without money. But faith is much more important, and touching people and having social work with them is much more important.
So you are, if you want, I'd love to hear, what was your journey to becoming a priest? Why did you decide to become a priest and be ordained?
So, I become I started my work in 1994, 1995, and I was a technology guy. I was a computer guy, and I was working a lot. As I said, I worked about 24 years, 14 hours a day, and never stopped, no weekends. And at some point, I understood that technology is not only the way of our life. There is some spiritual work you need to do. In my childhood, my mother gave me the very tiny book of St. Lucas, St. Evangelium, and I learned different language, and it was in Russian language at Feltr. And I learned Russian language just to be able to read that tiny book. And that was something what was driving me. And I don't know why it was in Russian, but that's happened, right? Whatever happened. And then when I grew up, I started reading the religious books. I was reading on the daily basis prayers, and I started understanding that those prayers are helping me in my stressful life. And when I traveled when I moved to Canada, I figured also something else, that without church, I cannot survive. So much stress, so much work. I cannot survive without prayers and without being around people. And I started helping in one of the churches. There was no Georgian church in that time, in 2008. And I was helping in an altar, and my son was helping in an altar. My wife also, she was helping this church. And we were donating a lot of hours there, and working and then volunteering in church events and church services. And at some point, a priest told me that, why you did not tell me that you want to be a priest? And I said, how did you know? I never told anything like this, even to my wife. I was wondering when I was a kid, can I be a priest? But then when I became technology person, I said, no, technology person cannot be a priest. And something has changed in 1 second. God told me that, yes, you can be spiritual leader, and you can be also technology leader. It's not it's overlapping, but it's not rejecting each other. And in 2012, I was ordained as a deacon in a church, and then that was the time when I started my spiritual work. And instead of just serving and volunteering, I started serving as a church leader. And in 2012, I moved to the Georgian Church, and the Georgian Church was created here in 2010. It's one of the youngest churches, but we grew like 10 times since then, and our growth is huge. As in North America, there were five churches. Now we have like 25 churches in North America, US and Canada, 4 parishes in Canada minimum, and then there are much more parishes in US. It was 6 times our church, our eparchy growth 6 times during the last 12 years. It's a huge growth, and a lot of people, a lot of Canadians, a lot of Greeks, Romanians, Serbians are coming to our church, and they see that our devote to the faith, and they see how much we work for each other. And what they love about it, that they see that we are friends. We know everyone in the church. I know by names about 5,000-6,000 people, and we have about maybe 15,000 people, maybe 20,000 people in Toronto, and there are more in Montreal, and then Vancouver, and Calgary, and Edmonton. There are some people in Edmonton, and I know most of those people by their name. I know their problems, and can you imagine how much information is it? And I have to solve their problems every day. I have a lot of Ukrainians coming to me and saying, "Father, do you have a space where we can stay for a week or 2?" I have a lot of newcomers coming and saying, "Father, where we can find the work, and especially today there is a problem with the Ukrainian people are arriving, and we are helping all of them, right? We're trying to help all of them, and same with other nations." And we help them, and then they help others too. And that's what is helping me to work so many hours a day and survive and be happy. When I wake up, I know that I need to help maybe another 20-30 people this day. And when I go for sleep, I would say, how many people did I help today? And I'm trying to count them. And when you exercise this, you go to your bed very happy, and you are happy that you make your work make somebody else happy.
That's beautiful. I have a question, and you kind of just answered it, but I want to expand on it. Because of the position that you are in, because of the role that you hold, you see an incredibly large amount of people, and you deal constantly with their problems, their crises, their issues. And just as another observation, I don't know what it's like in the country you come from, in Georgia, but in the West here, I observe our society and our culture getting more and more worked up and anxious and stressed out every day. And you wake up every single day and you charge headfirst into, for lack of a better way of saying it, into that anxiety. That is the role that you hold. Yet you hold for yourself this incredibly calm and peaceful demeanor. So can you elaborate on where you draw your peace and security from?
Yes. And I explain. People tell me that, Father, God gives you so much energy that we cannot follow you. And you're first who takes the rockers and then to rocker leaves. And you're first who lifts the heavy, lumber to start building something. You're first to start painting. You're first in a church. You lit all candles, and we come, and everything is ready, and then you leave last, and to clean up everything. Yes, a lot of people are helping, but you need to be first who is taking first step, and that's very important. Leader is not just a leader who gives the orders. Leader is who takes the pain first. And to your question, answer to your question is the how do I get this much energy? Sometimes at my work they call me Iron Man.
Hmm.
I don't know why they do that, but they see that I have 8 to 15 meetings at my work every day, half an hour, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and then I work in a church, and they come to church and they see that I'm tired, but I'm smiling. God gives me so much power, and it's not about me. It's not about that Father Thomas is getting so much power from God. No, everyone can do that. Everyone is giving the huge amount of the power that you can wake up and you can be happy going to the battle every single day. And I would say, yes, first of all, prayers. I do a lot of prayers. Then I do a lot of fasting. And when I fast, my brain keeps clear. And when I pray not only for myself, I pray for everyone. And I wake up sometimes I'm saying, God, help this person. He has a chemotherapy today. Can you help this person? He has an MRI today. And I wake up in the middle of the night saying those things, and that helps me. That helps me to wake up. And even if I have a pain, and even if I have a pain in my head or back, I'm not Iron Man, right? But, they feel I am, and that drives me. That they need your help. For example, 2 days ago, I was at house where husband does not have one feet. He was injured at war, and then and wife is she's on chemotherapy every day. Amazing people, but they know that tomorrow it might be last day. When you come to them and you see their smiling faces, and they hug you and they say, thank you for coming to us and giving us a light and bringing to us a light, that drives you. That drives you when you see that kids who potentially can be at the street and doing wrong things, they're at a school and they're learning language, they're learning how to help others, how to fight for others, how to fight for the everyone's good and everyone's prosperity, and be a good person, right? And love your God and love your neighbor. That's what is making me to jump from my bed every morning and run every day until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. every day. And sometimes what makes me how to say sad sometimes when you work so hard and people don't see this, but I would say God sees this and God will bring them together again. So that's what is engaging me. That's what is firing me, right? Even at work, when I do a lot of technology research, not only at church, but at work, and I tell them, this is the way we should go. And I feel that God helps me to define the technology also. And that's very important because I'm very successful at work also. I've been VP of the few companies so far since last 4 or 5 years. and VP of the technology, of the engineering, infrastructure, architecture, and people love working with me. Sometimes we have 3 hours, and then we talk about our life, about our family, nothing else, and that makes my team bond together and work together. If they need to wake up for each other at the middle of the night at 2 or 3 a.m., they will do that. That's what is bonding them and myself to this society. And that's what is driving me to wake up every day. People to be happy, to have a smile on their face, and to deliver hope to every family. And that's what we need to propagate to everyone. And if we are here in this meeting, 3 of us, and I know how much hope do you guys deliver to others, how much information and good information you deliver to others, and that creates a hope. There is a hope. There is a nice people around us, right? And we live in a nice country, and there are people who are willing to help us or help others, and that's most amazing. And then second part of what I also mentioned, that when I don't look only on today, what we can do today. I look at our future. And what is our future? Our future is our kids and our young people. And that's why we are fighting so hard and trying to have we have a Sunday school since 2010. And this Sunday school, we have many kids, and many kids grew from that Sunday school. And we acquired another place. Now we have one place. We were renting so far for 10 years. We were renting the tiny place where only 100 people could fit, and other people, like 200-300 people, were staying outside, even in the winter, if you can imagine that. Now we have a bigger church where we can fit, but there are only 2 classrooms, and we have sometimes we have 60-70 kids. And how do you feed those kids in 2 tiny classrooms, right? And when you see that kids are growing and they are learning how to help others, how to pray, and what prayers gives them? Prayers gives them feelings that if they help others, God helps them, right? And that's what we are trying to keep them growing in a church. Why? And growing in a school. Because if you don't teach kids in the school their language, their culture, what they are devoted for, what they would like to grow to, right? If you don't teach them in the school, your churches will be empty down the road after 20 years, 30 years. And then that's what we see in the Western churches, right? I have a lot of discussions with the leaders of the Western churches, and they told me many times that we were first to take our hands off from the kids, and we don't have church schools anymore. And because of that, nowadays their churches is only elders are walking into their churches, and that's a big problem. If you don't grow your kids today in the church school or Sunday school, they will not help you. They will not help others. They will not grow in the church, and they will not be a good citizens or good people for your country. And that's why we are trying to see how those kids are growing. We see hope in their faces. We see their happiness in their faces when they come to the school. They see so many kids, even if it's Sunday, right? But they prefer to go to the church school instead of just sit home and play on their tablets or on the computers. And that's why we are trying to do some kind of fundraising to acquire the property in a Cookstown, where we can build our Sunday school and invite more people and be able to increase our bandwidth of how many kids we can teach and how many kids we can invite to the school.
So just to confirm for the listeners, I just want to push this point that Father Thomas is giving very nicely and theoretically. But right now, as Father Thomas has pointed out to everyone, he has been working incredibly hard, crisscrossing the country, and he jumps out of bed every morning with, frankly, the joy of the Lord in his heart because he's serving so many people. And he is inviting all of us, and I want to say that I'll be one of the first, hopefully, to help build this Sunday school, but he's seeing people who are longing for community, longing for faith, and longing for their culture. And he's saying, I want to bring that to my community. And so he's raising not a huge amount of money. I think it's about $100,000 that you have left that you need, $100,000 to build a Sunday school for his community to help continue to build that civil society. And I think one of the things we talk about on this podcast a lot, Zach, is community and how important it is to build those communities. And Father Thomas is an incredible example of the communities that can be built by the hard work and dedication of people of faith. And so if you feel called, any of the listeners feel called in their hearts to help support Father Thomas's work, please reach out to Zachariah, and we would be more than happy to put you in touch with him so that he can continue this work and even more expand it to the next generation even further than he already has. And I want everyone to know that I will be supporting this initiative as much as I can, and I hope everyone does too. We don't usually ask for money or donations, but I love what you're doing so much, Father Thomas, and the amount of work that you're putting into it. So I wanna promote this on this show and say, whatever people may believe about where the world is at, we need one another. We need one another badly. And Father Thomas is building a community and pouring his life out like a drink offering, as it says in the Bible, for his community. And I believe that people like myself and others who have maybe the capacity should look into how can we help someone who's already giving so much. And I loved what you said, Father Thomas, about giving is really what brings you the strength and the joy to keep going and to have that much energy. And then when you go to bed at night, you look back and you say, thank you, God, for allowing me to give so much. So we're nearing the end of our time here. So is there any last, maybe a spiritual blessing that you'd like to give the listeners and a bit of hope, as you've been giving so much hope?
I want to bless everyone who is listening to this show and who is listening to us. I want to bless everyone who are helping others. And Georgians say in a Bible, Jesus Christ said, when you give, when your right hand gives, make sure that your left hand does not know about it. And when your left hand gives, make sure that your right hand does not know about it. Georgians are a little bit different people. We exercised Bible so much that we see and we found that there is a side effect when you give. And Georgians say, when your right hand gives, you put it on the road and you walk away. But you will meet somebody who will give you on the road and who will help you on the road, down the road. And whatever you give, you will get it back in 10 times and 100 times and 1,000 times. So we expanded. Georgians expanded it a little bit, right? We exercised Bible so many times and so much in our lives that we understand that there is a side effect. When you give, you are getting back 100 times, even more. Not only by money, by finances, but you can get back with a health. You can get back with a more longer life, or with more kids and more happiness, right? So that's our whole idea, and I want you to understand that when you give, it's not that you will get it right away. Sometimes you get it right away back, but most of the time you are giving loan and you are helping others, and God is going to help you with that. And that's the most important blessing. Give a hope and give to others, and your life becomes completely different. Don't stay alone. Don't be apart. You need to be together. And I bless all of you people who listen to this broadcast. Be together. Go and hug your parents. Go and hug your kids and your neighbors and people around you and your friends. Don't just say hello. Just go and hug and give a hug. That's one of the most important things. We need to be together and we need to be united in a God and in ourselves. That's two most important commandments. Every other commandment are going out from those two. Love each other and love your God.
Thank you for listening to The Canadian Story. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at The CAD Story. That's the CAD Story. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Let's work together to remind Canadians how great their country is.